Thank you. Thank you. Always like to get all that technical stuff out of the way first. This is a Real Investors event. Would you please join me in a prayer? Dear Lord, we thank you so much for your beautiful hand upon us. And we just ask that you continue to have your hands on our families, our businesses, and most importantly, be ever mindful that we need to be a reflection of you in all we do. In Jesus' name, amen. So, hard to believe we're on day 15. We're into the third week. Round in the corner. Gonna get a thumbs up and an applause. Yay! You guys having a good time so far? Learning a lot? Having some aha moments here and there? All right, cool. So here's where we are. You will be getting your workbook, your student workbook for week number 3 tomorrow. And it's gonna have a lot of stuff in it. Probably not as much as the workbook for week 2, because week 2 had the Constitution and the contract. This is going to have a lot more little pages, sort of what I call cheat sheets and checklists, because now that we've sort of gotten through that part about creating the quick cash generator, we're going to need to start writing down what we're doing so we can then transition into that next phase, that third phase, which is putting this thing on autopilot. And I'm going to talk a lot tomorrow about what's in that workbook, go through each one of those cheat sheets and checklists. So I'm going to hold off on talking about that today, but we're now getting ready to make that transition. We are one day behind, but we were able to catch up. Thank you for letting me do a double session yesterday. But we are, we're one day behind, but that's okay. So I'm really finishing off the sort of going in, I'm finishing off the quick cash stuff today, and then we're really going to roll up our sleeves and go full on putting this thing on autopilot starting really day after tomorrow, because I got a special guest for tomorrow, but I'll mention that in a second. All right, so homework real quick. I'm not going to actually review it, but those of you who've been doing your homework, I am very active inside the Facebook group commenting on people's homework assignments. So if you are not uploading your homework assignments, you're really missing out on the chance to be mentored and coached by me individually, because I am commenting on every single person's homework assignment that's being uploaded. And most people are sort of getting it 100% correct. Most people are, fair number of people getting it 90% correct. And I'm really spending a great deal of time on that 10% to help people get to the 100% level. So if you're uploading your homework, you get to hear from me. And if you're going into the Facebook group, you're watching me coach and mentor people in real time. People oftentimes ask me, well, Sherman, if I sign up for a program, will I be mentored by you? You always get mentored and coached by me, but I'm the guy who gets to set the rules because it's my class. And rather than answering a bunch of individual questions on the telephone, which quite frankly is of limited value to you and limited value, definitely limited value to everybody else, my preference is to use all the different tools we have out there, like, our CRM program and REIU and Facebook. And Facebook is a really, really powerful tool for when you're doing stuff live. It's also a distraction if you're not careful, but it's also a very powerful tool when you're doing stuff live, because it gives the opportunity to not only live stream directly into the group, but also have people upload and not have to wait for that lag time that we typically see when we're having to edit stuff and post it in REIU. So take advantage of it. And don't just look at your own homework, but look at other people's homework and see the comments that I'm putting on other people's homework, because you may be making similar mistakes, or maybe you're not making a mistake, but you still have a question in your mind of, am I doing this correctly? Okay. So, excuse me, yesterday, day 14 was a review day. So there was no quote unquote homework for yesterday, but I did say on day 14, hey guys, if you want to upload some stuff, I'll still be looking at it. Main thing is yesterday and day 13, I also talked about re-watching those videos, not only watching the videos on how to write the contract, which many of you did do, thank you, but also the videos where I did the neighborhood analysis on day 13. The neighborhood analysis, the video on contracts, and the audio files on the water boy, like if I were to say, okay, if you said to me, Sherman, like, I don't have time to go through the whole 21 days, what's the most important part? I would tell you day 12, 13, day 11, 12, and 13. The water boy, the contract, the neighborhood. Those are by far the 3 most important things if you have any chance whatsoever of making serious money in 21 days or less and getting that first deal done. And that's what I promised you from the outset. Put everything together and you got close to 100% chance. I say close to 100% chance because 99.9% of what you need has been given to you, including live coaching mentoring for me. And then that 0.1% is what are you going to do? But the problem is it's 99.9 times 0.1%, because anything times nothing is still, put it in the chat box, nothing times nothing is nothing times nothing. Exactly. So even if I do 99.9% of the heavy lifting and guiding and mentoring, if you still don't do your 0.1%, you're going to get zero results. But again, if you said to me, hey, Sherman, what's the most important thing? I would say day 11, the water boy, day 12, the contract, day 13, neighborhood analysis. You do those three things and you are pretty close to being home free. And then if you add in everything else that's been involved in this course, this class, of sort of the background, the foundation stuff, the transitioning into the quick cash generator, and what we're going to start the day after tomorrow, which is transitioning fully into putting this on autopilot, you really have a killer system for making some serious money. I would say at least 100 grand a year. And towards the end of this week, I'm going to show you how to make 100 grand and then turn 100 grand into 200 grand with literally one simple step. And so what you have in your hands, should you choose to apply it, now I'm sounding like Mission Impossible, should you choose to accept it, is a really powerful 21-day course to make $200,000 a year working part-time from home, even if you have a full-time gig. I don't know if anybody else can make you that promise in a 21-day course, okay? But you'll get the most out of me if you upload your homework and let me comment and critique your homework, and also look at my comments and my critiques on other people's homework, because I think you'll also find that helpful, okay? Enough said. So, course outline, where are we? Again, we're a day behind, so even though this is day 15, I'm finishing up the whole quick cash generator, and then we're going to very quickly transition into autopilot. And so the handout that you will receive tomorrow will have all of the week 3 stuff in it, including all the cheat sheets, checklists, references, and stuff that you need to start putting this on autopilot. Okay, so that's what we're going to go after the day after tomorrow. So you'll have a day to look at it. Tomorrow, well, I don't want to let the cat out of the bag. I'll tell you what's going to happen tomorrow when we get a little bit further along. Okay, so this is where we are. This is where we're headed as we transition from the quick cash generator into what I call autopilot riches, putting this thing on autopilot. Today, I'm going to cover how to get those offers out the door. So we've literally spent 2 or 3 days now giving you guys plenty of practice to write up offers. We're going to talk about how to actually get them out the door. Then we're going to talk about what happens next. In other words, once you quote unquote unlock the matrix, what should you expect to happen next? And then we're going to talk about building out the rest of your team. And then that will complete this segment, this second week of the course on what I call the quick cash generator. And if there's anything that's still a question mark in your mind today, it will not be by the time that we finish this. Okay. Next, well, again, just a quick recap. Remember how I talked about the right hard money lender will make you filthy stinking rich. I think I said this to you guys on day 13. Then we talk about hard money lenders and neighborhoods on day 13. So here's your chance to ask me any questions if there's anything that's still sort of a question mark in your mind about how critically important it is that our proof of funds come from a true hard money lender, and how a hard money lender can basically help facilitate you selling more deals and make you rich, even if you never borrow a dime. Did everybody get that concept? And does anybody have any questions on why we're going to use a hard money lender versus a traditional bank lender versus photographing our retirement account money? Did everybody get that? Yes? Give me a thumbs up if you're getting that. Okay, cool. And again, if you didn't get it, again, go back through day 13. Everybody understand the Mayo Formula? Again, this is a recap. This is not new information to anybody. This is what we talked about on day 13 when we talked about neighborhoods. And everybody really understand and grasp this concept of the Mayo Formula and how it's really just 3 pieces. The Mayo Formula is equal to the fair market after repair value times the loan to value quoted by your hard money lender. Again, another good reason to go talk to a hard money lender, not a traditional lender, and not photographing your, your chunk of cash in a retirement account, because they'll tell you what's actually happening in the market and what they're willing to lend actually today in the market. And that's kind of important. Minus your repair costs, right? It's just those 3 things. It's the It's literally the most simple formula in the world, right? And it hasn't changed for hundreds of years, right? Reminds me of gunpowder, right? Gunpowder, it is, ever since the Chinese invented gunpowder, it's charcoal, sulfur, and saltpeter. That's it. It hadn't changed in hundreds of years. The stuff that makes fireworks go boom has not changed in thousands of years. I mean, hundreds, thousands of years. The Mayo Formula has not changed in hundreds, and it won't change. That's it. Now, I had some people at the review session yesterday, and also in the online Facebook group, asking me, well, Sherman, where should you put your profit? And where should you put this? And I had one real estate agent say to me that the Mayo Formula includes 2 other things you didn't talk about. Guys, don't gunk this up. Please do not gunk this up. You do not want to put in anything other than these 3 things. Otherwise, your recipe is going to basically go to hell. What I mean by that, your Mayo Formula, if you stop and think about it, is the fair market value, the fair market after repair. In other words, what the property should sell for after it's repaired, times a decimal point, which means it's going to be lower, minus, right? So what we're doing is we are deducting what we're willing to pay for the house based on these items. If you deduct anything else, if you put one more thing in this formula and deduct anything else, your offer is going to consistently be too low, and you're not going to get a deal. I mean, there is such a thing as, how low will you go and offering a low, quote unquote, low ball offer. But when your low ball offer is so low, it becomes ridiculous. It's almost insulting. If somebody has a $300,000 house and they know it needs repair, and they know it's in a bad state of disrepair, and there may be, a handful of other investors going after it, they're going to see the same sort of quote unquote low offers, and it's going to be based on the Mayo Formula. And anybody who's crazy enough to add one more thing into that formula, their offer is going to be another $10,000 to $20,000 below, or 5-10% below what everybody else is offering. It is automatically, like, even if you had a certain number of offers that were sort of standard matrix traditional offers, and then you had like 2 or 3 investor offers, you coming in there putting one more thing in that formula is going to put you totally out of the competition. And I don't care how clean your contract is, you're scratching out this, you're scratching out that, you're not asking for inspection, you're not asking for this, you're not asking for, subject to sale of your house, you're saying 30 days to close. You coming in there and having somewhat competitive on price, but having a super clean contract, you're going to be in the hunt. But if you come in there and add one more thing, and therefore that person's looking at what I would call 3 tiers of offers, right? The traditional buyer who's going to say, subject to the inspection, subject to financing contingencies, subject to me selling my own house. That's sort of the A tier. And then you have the B tier, which is other investors like you or other wholesalers like you. And then you have the C tier, which is the person who throws in one more thing in the Mayo Formula. All the folks in the C tier are going in the trash. In which case you have totally wasted whatever energy you put into this. Do not add one more thing to the Mayo Formula. Don't do it. And if anybody encourages you to add one more thing, tell them my mentor Sherman Ragland said no, and I'm not going to do it. Here's why. Once you get the property tied up and under contract, there's all kinds of ways you can renegotiate the price. The price you offer when you have a ratified contract is not the end of the story. And anybody who's been with me recently saw how we put a property under contract where we had 2 weeks to close, and we renegotiated it to 12 weeks to close and renegotiated $30,000 out of the price against a bank who told us there would be no exceptions. There's always exceptions. Get the darn fish in the boat before you start talking about, am I going to throw it back or keep it? And I'm telling you, if you put one more thing in that Mayo Formula, you're not going to get that fish. You will be so uncompetitive in your offer, nobody will respond, and you'll have zero. Now, I'm not talking about 3% or 5%. You'll have a 0% response. And then you'd be crying boohoo alligator tears all over the Facebook group talking about, I tried that thing, Sherman said it doesn't work. And I'm like, okay, tell me what your Mayo Formula looks like. Okay, I took, fair market value times 70% minus the repair cost, minus the transaction cost, minus my wholesaler profit. Where in the 21-day course did I say put all that junk in your mail? Well, you didn't say that, but I watched some YouTube videos the same time I was listening to you, Sherman. I'm pretty sure. Lord have mercy. Didn't we start the first day of this class saying, put everybody else's course away and just listen to me? I mean, for crying out loud, we're on day 15. Didn't this 15 days go by pretty quick? You couldn't put the YouTube videos and the junk you got from the boot camps and all that other stuff that hadn't worked for you yet. You couldn't put that away for 15 days. Really? My goodness. Heaven help you. Does everybody understand where I'm coming from? Give me a thumbs up if you understand where I'm coming from. Do not add one more thing to the formula. The formula works. See, once you get a property under contract or a ratified contract, not only can you renegotiate with the seller the price, the terms, the date, the whole 9 yards, because there's always going to be stuff that comes up that'll give you one more bite at the apple. But you want to get the bite at the apple when you control the deal, not when you don't control the deal. On top of which, in a hyper-competitive market that happens every 5 years, you can also renegotiate your profit with the person who's buying the property from you. And they may very well say, you know what, normally I also use the Mayo Formula, but that's when I'm out there looking for deals on my own. When wholesalers bring me deals, I understand I have to pay a little bit more than my Mayo Formula because you got to make a little money. They understand that. They get it. But if you put one more thing in that formula and that thing blows up on you and you get nothing, zero, zilch, nada, do not blame me because I told you not to do it. Blame the person who told you to add that extra junk in there, and make sure you look him in the eye and said, I should have listened to Sherman. I should have stopped listening to you. You done screwed up my business. Now leave me alone. I'm going back to learn from Sherman again to get this thing right. Well, why not just get it right in the first instance instead of having to repeat this? Just get it right the first time. Follow the Mayo Formula, okay? All right, I'm getting some questions in here in the chat. I got to take them. For repair costs, use $50,000 each time. No, I'm going to talk about repair costs in a second. Hold that thought, okay? But does everybody understand the Mayo Formula? Okay? And does everybody understand why we don't want to add anything else to that Mayo Formula? Okay? We want to get the fish on the line, and we want to have our diamond coach or our agent or our fellow team members help us drag that fish into the boat. And then once the fish is in the boat, then we can start making some decisions about, do we want it? Do we not want it? Do we want to renegotiate, right? Get control of the thing before you start playing games. Got it? Give me a thumbs up if you got it. All right, let's keep going. One more time, please make sure you go back and watch those videos. The day 13 videos where I talked about neighborhoods and why neighborhoods are the way they are in the United States of America, what we call subdivisions and why subdivision is a neighborhood, and also the grading of neighborhoods. And I know I only went from A to D, but I said in the greater Washington, D.C. area, we don't really have any E or F neighborhoods. And quite frankly, new investors should stay out of the E and F neighborhoods anyway. All investors should stay out of the F, what I call war zone. But new investors particularly should stay out of the E neighborhoods. It's a trap. It's a trap. And I know a lot of investors, especially in Prince George's, want to run up to Baltimore because everything's so cheap. Look, it's so cheap. Yeah, and then you find out why it's so cheap. And then you get stuck with it and you can't resell it. And that's when you get your education. And you'll wish to God you hadn't wasted 4, 5, 6 months trying to chase cheap deals in Baltimore in Class E, Class F neighborhoods. If you're in Baltimore, stick with Baltimore. If you're in DC, stick with DC. There's enough out here for everybody. But we got to make sure we're not chasing our tails by going after deals that are not easy to do in 21 days or less. And again, this course is not about doing all kinds of real estate. This course is not about every aspect of real estate. This course is about getting your first deal done in 21 days or less. And if you're going to get it done in 21 days or less, there's 2 neighborhoods I talked about. Anybody remember them? 2 categories of neighborhoods you should really be focused on. Anybody remember what they are? If you remember what they are, put it in the chat box, please. If you remember what it is, please put it in the chat box. What are the 2 classifications of neighborhoods that we really want to focus on? That's right, C and D. And which one first, by the way? D, that's right, D and C. D neighborhoods is like the property, in fact, the one I'm standing in front of right there in the picture, you know, Rollins Avenue, Capitol Heights, which, again, we've had 3 different case studies, 3 different angles. We had a case study by the wholesalers, we got a case study by the person who bought it, the rehabber, and we got a case study from the private investor who contributed to making the deal happen. So you've got 3 different looks at that property, and that property is in a D neighborhood, okay? All right, next up, let's talk about what happens when we go live and start sending these offers out. And does anybody remember what's the mechanism? What's the next step we need to take to start sending out real offers into real neighborhoods? What's the next step? Please put it in the chat box. You guys have been practicing and you guys have done extremely well. I'm really, really proud of you guys. I'm really pleased with what you guys have been uploading. Exactly. The next step is we sign a buyer-brokers agreement with somebody so we can create that fiduciary relationship. And then we get ourselves an agent, a buyer's agent, hopefully one that's got the CP RIA designation or somebody who's got some who's got some investment real estate in their background or is an investor. Or we just pick somebody who's a diamond coach at Real Investors, right? Because they're all of the above. And we sit with them and we go through the checklist. Y'all remember the checklist? We go back a few days. You guys remember this? The checklist, can you see that okay? Give me a thumbs up if you're seeing a checklist and on a silhouette.
No.
Please put it in the chat box, and whoever's unmuted yourself, please mute yourself. we saw how that ended a couple of days ago, right? When everybody was unmuting themselves. All right. You should see, and by the way, I can actually see Facebook on my computer. So I see there is a slight lag, true, but I'm seeing it says day 12 recap, because I went back a few days slides, day 12 recap, our first strategic hire, and it has the checklist. Does everybody see the checklist? Yes? Okay. So we sit with our agent after we sign the buyer-broker agreement, and we go through the checklist and discuss who's doing what. What are you responsible for? What are they responsible for? And then they will tell you what changes, what variations, or what contracts they want you to use. Yes, I know the contract is not clear on the screen, but you have a copy of the contract. I sent it to you last week, and I asked you to print it out. So you should have that actual the actual checklist. You should have that checklist, and you've had that checklist for almost 5 days now, okay? So please go pull your workbook for week 2 and print out the checklist. And again, I asked you guys to print that checklist out way back on day 11. And we went through it on day 11 and day 12, okay? So if it's not clear on my screen, it will be clear when you print it out. I'm not gonna go through the line items on my screen. All I'm saying is that when you're ready to start sending real offers out into the street, we wanna make sure that we have a buyer's agent who we have a fiduciary relationship with, because anything we tell an agent before we have that fiduciary relationship is they don't have to keep it secret, okay? You never know if you're sitting there talking to somebody and you start telling them stuff, they may very well have a listing that they've been trying to dump on somebody and they're like, oh, I found me a pigeon. I mean, I wish I was like making this stuff up, but I'm just telling you how the business really works. And if you want to have a fiduciary relationship, does everybody understand what a fiduciary relationship is? Because I don't whip that pony into the ground 3 times and back again, right? If you want that, you got to sign the buyer-broker agreement. So once you sign the buyer-broker agreement, then you meet with the agent, then you sit down with a checklist, and you say to them right out the gate, oh, and by the way, I have been writing up offers, practicing, waiting for this day to come. And you may want to actually have 1 or 2 printed out and bring it with you. So, okay, this is what Sherman said to do. Again, if you're working with somebody from Real Investors, like, yep, we're good. Except we're going to go after deals in Prince George's County And because we're going after deals only in Prince George's County, we're going to use the PG Carr contract. Well, again, the PG Carr contract is not that different from the MAR contract. It just isn't. So the fact that somebody gives you a new contract, okay, now you got to spend the night to read it, but you've already read the MAR contract, so you'll be able to pick up on the differences very quickly. Somebody might say, hey, we're going to go after deals in Baltimore. Somebody might say, we're going to go after deals in Virginia or DC. Wherever you're going after deals, you want to use that border realtor contract. But because you've read the Maryland Association of Realtors contract, you are not going to see many you won't see any radical changes. You may see stuff worded slightly differently because different lawyers approve different documents. But the foundation you've already built and have been building, assuming you've been doing your homework for the past 3 days, is all you need. Because now all you're doing is looking at the changes in the different contract as opposed to reading it from scratch. Does everybody got that? Give me a thumbs up. Okay, so when we're ready to go, when we're ready to get out there for real, when we're ready to put real offers out in the street, we will sign a buyer broker agreement, and then we'll sit down with an agent, a buyer's agent, who has a fiduciary responsibility to us, a responsibility to keep our secret secret, and we'll start writing up offers and getting them out in the street. Okay, everybody got that? Everybody got that? Yep. All right, so here's the seven things we're going to be doing. You may want to start taking some notes if you came to take notes tonight. Number one, we're going to write up those offers. You guys have already been practicing this. You've already been doing the mock offers. Now you're going to have a real contract. There'll be no watermark that says for educational purposes only. You're really going in motion. You're putting these offers in the street. Okay? Make sure we have our proof of funds letter before we do that. So those of you who've already gone to Real Investor Loans, let me go and put that in the chat box. Put that. Actually, you know what? I'll put that in the chat box and I'll put it on a slide. www.realinvestor loans. You already have started the process to get your proof of funds letter. And those of you who have not done that, please do that ASAP, like right after we finish tonight, before you upload your homework, before you do your homework, right? Because you need to have your proof of funds letter. You need to have that letter from the hard money lender before you start writing offers. You cannot submit an offer without a proof of funds letter. Does everybody understand that? You understand that? Give me a thumbs up. Okay. So proof of funds letter. Then we need our border realtor agreement, right? Which is the thing you guys have all been doing. And we need our addendum with the one and only, not easel, Weasel, Weasel Clause, right? I love doing this on the fly. With our one and only Weasel Clause, okay? Everybody got that? Everybody got it? Give me a thumbs up if you got it. All right? In fact, let me do this real quick. I should have done this as I was preparing the slides before. Don't know why I forgot. Real investor loans for POF. Actually, it's not usually abbreviated, POF from HML. Does everybody understand what that little lingo means? You know what? I think I'm going to make that a different color. Just because. So we're going to go to Real Investor Loans for POF from HML. What does POF mean? Yes, thank you. Reggie's got it. Proof of funds from hard money lender. Got it? So, proof of funds, you guys need to go get that. Border realtor agreement, you already have one for Maryland Association of Realtors. So if you wind up going after deals in Maryland and meeting with a Maryland buyer's broker, you're good to go. If they want to suggest using a different border realtors agreement, don't let that freak you out. Just read it. You'll see that it's very similar to the one you've been working with. And the addendum with the Weasel Clause. And the most important thing is we need that Weasel Clause. We must have the Weasel Clause in our contracts. Understand? That is the one and only way you get out of a bad deal. If you put a bunch of offers out, you want to get something ratified, you attempt to shop it to your buyer's list, and the deal's just not going anywhere, without that Weasel Clause, you're going to have a hard time to get out. But you guys are doing a great job uploading stuff on the Facebook group, so I know you're getting this. Okay, so I don't need to whip that pony. All right, next, we need to get the offers out the door. Speak with your diamond member coach, your agent, and say, hey, what is the best mechanism for getting them out the door? In the old days, it was almost always fax machine, except in the older days when there was no fax machine. Today, nobody even knows what a fax machine is. Having said that, there is software out there that if you have a printer, you can scan the document and then send it to a fax machine. So there are people who still have fax machines on the receiving end, okay? So faxing or scanning the fax is one way, still works, although each and every year that passes, it's less and less. Email, which is probably gonna be the most preferred way, all right, emailing it. And your diamond member coach may have a preferred mechanism for emailing. They may have already set up an email to work with their clients, especially work with a lot of investor clients, because a lot of investor clients, especially those who've gone through the 21-day program, they want to be able to upload their own offers. So they may say, hey, listen, use this return address or CC me or BC me. They'll explain how they want it done, okay? Or upload to a specific website. And if you're going after HUD deals, VA deals, FHA deals, they have specific websites that they want offers uploaded to. Again, your diamond coach, your investor agent will be able to explain, and in those instances where you see the information in the listing agreement that says it has to be uploaded to a certain website, they can facilitate that for you. Once you get into a relationship of trust, they'll probably give you their access code and you can upload it yourself. But don't expect that right out the gate. You have to build up that level of trust, okay? So what are the 3 ways you're gonna get your offers out the door? Please put it in the chat box. What are the 3 ways you're gonna get the offers out the door? Please put it in the chat box. What are they? Type it in the chat box. There you go. Fax it, email it, or upload it to a specific website. That's exactly right. Those are the 3 ways. There is another one, which is like physically take it to the agent, but good luck with that one. That's a little slow, right? So, probably the most prominent way is going to be email, okay? And by the way, you may want to set up your own email account just for your deals. At some point, when you're ready to start automating it, you may wind up bringing on an assistant and you want them to upload it and you want to give them access to the email account, right? So think about, setting up some kind of a Gmail account. Gmail's free, that has the name of your real estate company or an abbreviation of the name of your real estate company. Some of y'all got some pretty long names. Look, I was reading those contracts you guys were writing up, and on a couple of them, I'm like, I don't like the name of your real estate company at all. Change it, right? But some of you got some really long names, which makes for some really long email addresses. You may have to abbreviate. Sunshine Family Partners Real Estate Trust may wind up having to be Sunshine Real Estate. You know what I'm saying? At gmail.com, right? So be thinking about what you want to do. One thing though, and I've seen this a lot over the years, you may not use Real Investors. On top of which, you don't want to use Real Investors. Real Investors is a trademarked name, and if you wind up using Real Investors, you will get a letter from our trademark attorney out of Towson, Maryland, who will tell you to cease and desist, and they'll write to Gmail and tell them to shut it off. Same with Facebook. Now, if you earn the Real Investor designation, you are more than welcome to use Real Investor as a designation, but you can't use Real Investors as the name of your company, and you don't want to. You want to have your own identity, right? So other than that, you can call yourself anything you want. I would also strongly recommend that you set up a separate, and I would recommend Gmail. And by the way, those of you who work for the federal government, or you work for major employers, or you work for big-time contractors, you probably want to set up a separate independent email anyway. And some of you guys do write to me from your federal government, and because I always see external email versus internal. You guys want to get out of that habit. A, you may switch jobs, and B, your employer may not like knowing that you're doing your own stuff on their time. So get yourself a Gmail account. That's probably by far the most prominent free account. And if you use Yahoo and AOL, everybody knows how old you are, right? So just get yourself a separate Gmail account just for the business. And more businesses, by the way, are using Gmail accounts because Google does have a program for large enterprises to use Gmail, and they manage the email whole thing for them. I started using Gmail several years ago and just sort of completely abandoned and walked away from, for the most part, my Realinvestors account because the Gmail server never goes down. The Gmail server, if somebody tries to hack it, Gmail's got all kinds, Google's got all kinds of money to prevent that from happening. And I just found it worked better on my mobile devices than some of my other emails. So over time, that became the predominant way that I started doing things. So you're free to choose whatever you want, but be ready to grow your business, and having a separate email account just for the business is a smart way to go. Okay, so everybody got that? Get the offers out the door. All right. Next step, follow up. Please write that down. Follow up. Do not assume that because you faxed an offer or emailed an offer or uploaded a website, do not assume that it actually was received. And I see a lot of people who, get their lips poked out because, like, Sherman, I sent out 50 offers and I heard nothing. And then when I say, okay, did you follow up? No. And then they actually start following up and they realize, oh my gosh, like half the offers I send out are never received for one reason or another. And I'm not even talking about using the US mail service. I'm just talking about email and stuff, right? Maybe you transpose a number, a digit, a letter in the email address, and it went into email purgatory and never to be seen or heard from again, right? Our email address is realinvestors.com, not realinvestor.com, even though we own both. You send something to Sherman at realinvestor.com, it ain't getting here, okay? So follow up. And the best way to follow up is you tell your agent, your diamond coach, that you will be doing the follow-up within 24 hours of getting these offers out the door. And you're going to tell them that you are working on behalf of the agent, because the agent is the one who's supposed to be having the communication, agent to agent communication. So it's a real simple conversation. If Jesse Marks is my agent, I'm saying, hey, it's Sherman Ragland. I'm calling on behalf of Jesse Marks. We sent over an offer for 123 Maple. We just want to see that you got it. That's what I mean by follow-up. You're not going to hear me say, hey, this is Sherman Ragland, and I work with Jesse Marks. I'm calling to see if you got the offer. What do you think about the offer? Are you accepting our offer? No, you're not having any of that conversation. You're just calling to make sure the darn thing got received. That's it. Don't try to overplay your hand. It doesn't work. It'll backfire on you. Okay? You're not there to talk to the seller's agent. What did we say about never talking to the seller's agent? What part of never talk to the seller's agent did we not understand? The one exception to that is you can call the seller's agent on behalf of your agent. I never used the word, I'm Jesse Marks' assistant or secretary. I just simply said, I'm calling on behalf of Jesse Marks. Is that a true statement in this instance? I'm calling on behalf of Jesse Marks. We just sent over an offer, or we sent over an offer yesterday, or we sent over an offer this morning for 123 Maple. We just want to see that you got it. And oh, by the way, how hard is that anyway? Hopefully nobody's knees are knocking over the thought of calling on behalf of your agent to make sure the offer was received. But once you do that and they say, yes, we got it, you're like, cool. One that actually got through. And then ask if anything else is needed. Great, you got it. Is there anything else we need? Well, hang on a second, let me take a look at it. I know we got it, but I haven't actually looked at it. Okay, I'll hold. Yeah, it looks pretty good. There's a couple of addendum. Okay, I'll be sure to tell Jesse that we need to send over some more information. But in the meantime, you did get it and you're going to present it. Great. Everybody hear what I just said? You're calling on behalf of your agent to confirm that it was received. You're asking if anything else is needed. And if they say, yeah, we need X, Y, and Z. Yeah, there's no disclosures in here. You need to go online and download. Okay. Sorry about that. I will make sure I mention that to Jesse. We'll take care of that right away. Got it? And then the last question you ask, can you tell me when you think we'll get a response? Can you tell me when you think we'll get a response? Again, very low key, no pressure. You're not in a, and then they're going to tell you, well, this particular seller, they like to do things a certain way. We're not going to actually present offers until the end of the week. Well, this particular seller only wants us to present offers once every 2 weeks. Well, this particular seller doesn't really give much feedback. You know, if they don't accept your offer, you're not going to hear anything from us. But by asking the question, you at least kind of know what to expect. And every once in a while, you'll get a rookie agent who'll say something like this. You know, we presented some offers yesterday. He didn't like any of them. We're going to present yours probably this afternoon. You know, I'm just getting tired of this client. You know, we'll do the best we can to make sure that they, you know, give a favorable, you know, to yours. Or something like this. You know, we haven't had any offers on that property in a month. We're going to call them and present this one right away. Every once in a while, somebody on the other end of that phone will tell you something they're not supposed to tell you. Be alert. Be sensitive. Don't be a jerk. Let them believe you're just an administrative assistant doing your job, not the barracuda floating in the water that you are. And then once you get that piece of information, make sure you hustle back to your buyer broker, to your buyer agent and say, hey, I just got off the phone with so-and-so just to confirm the offer's received. And he told me, you wouldn't believe what he told me. Boom. And then strategize on what you do next. Everybody got that? You got to give me a thumbs up. All right. So again, you're just calling on behalf, confirming it was received, seeing if there's anything else, and seeing if you can get a little market intelligence because somebody says something they're not supposed to say. Okay. Next, wait for what's called highest and best. If you have done your job properly, nobody is going to accept your offer as written. If you have done your job properly, your offer should be low enough that they want you to submit a higher offer, but your contract should be clean enough that they like everything about it except for the, let me hear it, put it in the chat box. What should be the one thing they don't like? Price. If you do your job well enough, your contract is squeaky clean, friction-free, and the only thing they're going to be talking to you about is the price. Well, if the only thing they're going to talk to you about is the price, they're going to invite you to something called a highest and best. I oftentimes call it best and final because I come out of the world of government contracting years ago now. But highest and best. When you're invited to highest and best, well, first of all, don't expect everybody to call you back for highest and best. As I said before, roughly 97% of the people you send offers to, you'll never hear anything. So please don't be coming in the Facebook group going, Sherman, I put 100 offers out and I only heard from 3. Well, you did good. 3 to 5 is kind of the magic number. When you're first getting started and you haven't quite got the hang of it and your Mayo number is a little bit off because you haven't really gotten you haven't really got the hang of what the rehab costs are, it's going to be like 3%. And then the better you get at it, the more it's going to move toward 5%, but it's never really going to be above 5%. You're not going to get 10, 20% of the people you send offers to coming back at you. If you do, there's something you did wrong. I'm just telling you, there's something you did wrong. It's going to be about 3 to 5%. So if you get 5 offers out the door every day, 5 days a week, that's 25 offers. You ought to get one person calling your agent saying, can you give us the highest and best? And it's only when you get to the highest and best that you swing into action and go visit the property with your contractor and go through it with a fine-tooth comb. And if you wind up hiring a contractor who's going to make you pay them to go do a cost estimate for you, pay them. As long as they're not charging you anything much above $200 or $300, it's worth every nickel, especially the first couple times you go out, because you're getting a lesson and an education on how to do a cost estimate. Now, when you get the week 3 packet, you'll have a cost estimating sheet in there. Take that, print it out, and take the cost estimating sheet with you with like a clipboard and a pen. And let the contractor teach you how to do a cost estimate on a house. And if you're doing what we talked about 2 days ago, day 13, focusing on only a couple of neighborhoods, chances are every house in that neighborhood that becomes available is going to have a very similar budget for renovation. And therefore, every time you hear about a property popping up in Lanham Seabrook, certain zip code or a certain part of Land of Seabrook, yeah, oh yeah, almost all the houses over there were built in 1948 to 1956. Almost every house in that neighborhood needs about $45,000 worth of repair. And it just becomes second nature. Somebody asked earlier, is my rehab budget always going to be 50,000? No. Your rehab budget's not always going to be a number, but your rehab budget for a specific neighborhood is always going to be in the same ballpark. If all the houses in that neighborhood are 18,000 square feet, and all the houses in that neighborhood are 65 to 75 years old, then they all kind of need the same amount of work, and they all kind of going to have the same budget. And you will discover that very quickly when you start going out in the street that, hey, this house is not that different than the house I was looking at a week ago. And therefore, if the contractor says, do you really want me to come? You really want me to come with you and charge you another $250 or $200, $150, whatever it is? You're like, nah, man. I can see it on the MLS. I can see on the inside. I can see what's going on. I'm just going to use the same cost estimate you gave me last week because it's basically the same house. And that's all you, if you're wholesaling, that's really all you need. Now, when you guys are ready to start tackling rehabbing, then you really need to get in there, and you want to get in there before your contractor gets in there. Well, that's a whole different level. That's a whole different ball game. All right. But we're talking about this week and last week and the week before about getting your first deal done. We're talking about building a wholesaling machine. We're talking about building a wholesaling machine that allows you to outsource most of the work to somebody else, so you keep 90% of the profits, or you're doing 10% of the work. And oh, by the way, you build that same machine, you're going to be wholesaling 2 deals a month and keeping 1 for yourself to either rehab, to flip and make $60,000, $70,000 on, or rehab and turn it into a rental. Because the same machine that feeds your wholesaling profits is the same machine that's going to feed you your rehab deals and your buy, fix, and hold. Or as one website calls it, your BRRRRRR. Y'all know which website I'm talking about. All right. So after you get your offers out the door, after you follow up, you just simply wait for the seller's agent to call your agent and say, hey, can you come up with a higher price? And the number one thing you want to have happen is to have your agent buy you time. If you get yourself an agent who doesn't know what the hell they're talking about, they'll be like, okay, you need the highest and best? Okay, we'll have it to you at 5 o'clock today. What? And how much time does that give you to go out with a real estate contractor, general contractor, and do a thorough review of what it's going to cost to rehab the house? Nothing. It gives you nothing. You want to train your agent, and you don't have to train your diamond coach to say, hey, can I get 72 hours? And they may say, no, I can't give you. Okay, can you give me 48? We really need it in the next 24. I don't know if we can do a 24. If you really want them to come up with a significantly higher price, you got to give me at least 2 days. 3 would be better. And then our diamond member coaches are trained to just shut their mouth, because the next person who speaks loses. What the person on the other end of the line will say, if your diamond member coach has done their job properly, is, okay, I gave you 48. Let me see if I can get 72, but you at least got 48. Give me an answer in 2 days. And that buys you enough time to call your contractor or get a referral for a contractor and get your butt out there and look at the house. And if you can't go with them because your schedule's too tight or you're out of town, get them to go out there with a video camera and video conference them while they're going through the house. And you have your checklist and cost estimating sheet with you to make sure you don't forget anything and they don't forget anything as they're walking through the house. And then you come up with the revised cost estimate, and maybe you use 40,000 as a quote unquote swag, but when your contractor gets in there, it looks more like 75. In which case you are readjusting your highest and best down. That can happen. But what if you put 50,000 in for your rehab costs and your contractor gets in there and says, okay, I can do it for 38. Well, then you readjust your highest and best price up. And everybody's happy. For your first batch of offers, you're just going to put the best number you can, which is all the more reason why you don't want to gunk it up with a whole bunch of other fees. And then once you get invited to the highest and best, then your contractor goes out, then you go out with the contractor, and move heaven and earth to be able to do that. But if you can't, at least do a video conference and have your rehab cost estimate checklist with you. And then you go back and resubmit your highest and best based on your new contractor number. Does everybody understand that? Give me a thumbs up. Okay. So question was the other day, when do we bring in the contractor? You bring in the contractor when you get invited to highest and best. There's no reason to bring in a contractor before. There just isn't. You don't want a cost estimate done in a vacuum based on no reality. You want to do cost estimates based on real projects, real properties that you're actually going out to, so that you can resubmit a real offer, highest and best, to the seller, and do everything in your power to get that property under contract. Got it? You got to give me a thumbs up. All right. So next thing, and this is a little more advanced, and you're not going to do it the first couple of times. You're going to be like, oh, shucks, I forgot. But after a while, you're going to be like, okay. When you go to look at a property, this is very important. Please write it down. It's not in my notes, but I'm telling you this. When you go to look at a property, don't just look at the property. Maybe you're going to meet with the contractor at 3 o'clock. Okay, great. Get there at 10 minutes to 3. Don't be late. If you're late on a contractor, they may just leave. They don't see you, they may just leave. If you're not going to get there and you want to do a video, tell them well in advance. I'm not going to be there, or I'm going to join you later. And we'll start it on the phone. Do you have an iPhone? Great. Then we're going to start it on the FaceTime, okay? Or whatever other app you choose to mutually use. Now, when you go there and you're finished with the contractor, walk the neighborhood. You know, if the neighborhood feels unsafe to you, walk the neighborhood with a dog, a big one, preferably one with a spiky collar and chains, right? But walk the neighborhood. And if the neighborhood really doesn't feel safe, it may not be a neighborhood you want to be investing in. But in any case, walk the neighborhood. After you walk the neighborhood, drive the neighborhood. Drive around for a couple blocks and then a couple more blocks and really get to know the neighborhood. Let the fact that you're there to do a highest and best on a house be the excuse you need to start learning neighborhoods. Everybody got that? If you got that, give me a thumbs up. And then finally, get in the habit of not going empty-handed. Take flyers with you. What should my flyer say? We buy houses. If you're so inclined, take bandit signs. Bandit signs are about $1 to $1.50 a pop. Later on this week, I'll tell you some sources that I use to get bandit signs. Okay? Take them with you. You go to meet with the contractor at the house. You show up 10 minutes early to make sure that he doesn't leave, she doesn't leave. There are contractors that are women. You then walk the neighborhood with your flyers or your bandit signs. You then drive the neighborhood with your flyers and your bandit signs. I'm oftentimes asked, Sherman, when do I go from phase 1 to phase 2? At the same time. Phase 1 and phase 2 are two distinctly different strategies. One is dealing with the MLS, the other is dealing with FSBOs. But you pivot from phase 1 into phase 2. You don't leap. As you are doing phase 1, you start doing some basic phase 2 stuff. What's some basic phase 2 FSBO marketing stuff? Flyers, bandit signs at a minimum. And if you really like the neighborhood, or better yet, you wind up establishing a relationship with a buyer who really likes that neighborhood and you want to really work that neighborhood, then you start coming and doing separate trips just to the neighborhood. But in the first instance where you're being invited to a highest and best and you're going to go look at a house, don't go empty-handed. In one hand, you're going to have a clipboard and your contractor estimate with your pen. And in the other hand, you're going to have our We Buy Houses flyers. I'll talk the day after tomorrow about what happens when the phone rings, because now you're talking directly to sellers. And I'm going to tell you what to say and tell you what to do. Don't worry about that today. Today, just get it in your head. You're not going empty-handed. And get it in your head. You're not just going to look at a house. You're going to look at a neighborhood. You're going to look at what's around the house, near the house. And you're going to start to learn these neighborhoods by actually getting out in the field and learning these neighborhoods. As I said before, on a multitude of times, you learn this business by doing it. By putting contracts / offers in the street and being invited to a highest and best and having your agent call you and say, hey, good news, we got highest and best. Why don't you go out and take a look at this property and tell me what you think? And getting out there, you're forcing yourself to learn the business. If that makes sense to you, give me a thumbs up. If that scares you, give me a thumbs up. It ought to scare you a little bit. That ought to scare you a little teeny bit. But again, guess what? All the good stuff happens outside your comfort zone. So if it's scaring you a little bit, don't worry about it. You're not going to be out there alone. Okay? All right. Question is, when we're submitting a new hire offer, do we have to submit a completely new contract? For the most part, no. You're just going to change the price. Your Diamond member coach will tell you what's the best way to do it. Redo that particular page with a whole new number, attach a journal addendum that says that the purchase price is now raised to, or just scratch it out and put the new price and initially. Given the fact that you're doing handwritten offers, I don't advise the scratching out. It's going to get really messy real quick. And I'm really sort of indifferent between substituting a new page with a new hire offer or just simply adding a general addendum that says the new offer price is whatever. Okay. All right. What happens if the repair estimate is off? Your repair estimate is going to be off. Your initial repair estimate is a swag. It's going to be off. It's going to be off probably by $5,000, $10,000, $15,000 one way or another. And you readjust your purchase price based on what your contractor tells you. But it's going to count on it being off. Just count on it being off. All right. Other questions. Let me scroll back because some of you guys asked me some questions earlier and I kind of ignored them. Let me pick them up real quick. Somebody has an internet connection that's not working properly. Sorry about that. By the way, let me go ahead and mute you guys again because you guys just are bound and determined to open up your microphones and compete with me. Uploaded homework, not sure where it went. Make sure you're uploading it on the proper day. What if the buyer wants to use their own hard money lender? Nothing wrong with that. I would still recommend that they at least talk to yours. If the end user buyer uses their own hard money lender, is the Weasel Clause you taught us? No. That Weasel Clause never comes out of the contract. Without that Weasel Clause, you have no way to weasel out of the deal. Okay? And you only need one Weasel Clause, but it stays in for the whole duration, even up to the day of settlement. You never, ever remove the Weasel Clause that says subject to the approval of your hard money lender. Why? Because you can be 30 seconds or 30 minutes before you're supposed to go to settlement, and if you still can't find a buyer, you can get a hard money lender to send you a letter saying, I'm rejecting the deal. Okay? So the hard money lender Weasel Clause never comes out, even if the other side uses theirs. Are there other methods we can use to get out of the contract if we're unable to find? Yes, there are plenty of methods, but here's the problem. At what point in time do you negotiate your exit, your Weasel Clauses? Up front. If you put too many Weasel Clauses in your initial offer, your offer will never see the light of day. It will automatically go in the trash can. I literally have somewhere in my library, I'm actually in my man cave, which is basically bookshelves, floor to ceiling, books everywhere. I literally have a book somewhere in here called 101 Weasel Clauses for Real Estate Investors. When I bought it in my 20s, I thought it was the cat's meow. Little did I realize it's junk, and it is. You only need one Weasel Clause, but you got to make sure it's in that contract. Remember what we said, when you attach an addendum and the seller agrees to it and the buyer agrees to it, it becomes a part of the contract. So when I say in the contract, I don't mean necessarily in the body of the contract. As long as it's in the addendum and the seller agrees to it, it's part of the contract. Make sure that Weasel Clause does not come out. That's the only one you need. When you start getting into more sophisticated deals, you'll have some more sophisticated Weasel Clauses. When you start doing FSBO deals, yeah, you'll have some more Weasel Clauses. But when you're talking about going after deals in the MLS, we want our contracts to be what, people? Right in the chat box. Hint, hint, F. We want our contracts to be what? Friction-free. You got that right. That's a beautiful thing. When your contract is friction-free, you're doing deals. Reminder, please review the addenda section on page 4 of the brokerage contract. Okay, I'll come back to that. I've already given you guys an example of the Mayo Formula, so please watch day 13. And we'll also go over Mayo Formula, not today, but we'll go over Mayo Formula again a couple more times. But I'm sorry, day 13. But I went over the Mayo Formula extensively on day 13. Please review the addenda section on page 4 of the brokerage contract. Okay, I will. That's the second time someone's asked me for that. All right, I think that's everything. Can you expand on paragraph 7 of the contract? Sure. Okay, guys, I want to remind you, I did the contract on day 12. In fact, I did it twice because we had a bunch of interruptions the first time, and then I redid it live with a group of folks. So there is a video on how to fill out the contract, and it's really good now because there's no interruptions the second time around. Okay, but I will touch on that in a second. All right. All right, I think that's it. Is the proof of funds website for REI buyers, clients, or can we as realtors use that site? Anybody can use that. Real Investor Loans. Anybody can go to Real Investor Loans to get a proof of funds letter from a hard money lender. Okay. You don't have to be a Real Investor's client. You can be a real estate agent. Anybody who needs a proof of funds letter from a hard money lender can go to realinvestorloans.com and get it. All right, I think we're caught up. Oh, here we go. What happens if repair estimate is off? We talked about that. Should you raise your estimate of repairs 5 to 10% for issues that may not? No, 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 no. If you have a contractor who knows what they're doing and they give you a written estimate, that becomes a written estimate. You adjust your price accordingly using the Mayo Formula. Okay. Don't add another 5 or 10%. Again, don't gunk this up. Okay. What is the interest rate hard money lenders are charging on average, just so we know it's fair? There is no such thing as fair. There is no such, fair doesn't exist in this business. Get over it. That's what my mama said to me when I was a kid. Life's not fair, get over it. Let me explain something to you. Hard money lender. What exactly is a hard money lender? A hard money lender is somebody who's in the business of giving money to people who really shouldn't get it. You want to talk about fair? If we really want to talk about fair, there would be no hard money. Like, tell me what a hard money lender does. Anybody want to tell me what a hard money lender does? Okay, I'll tell you what a hard money lender does. They loan money to people who have zero experience, who oftentimes have bad credit, and this is the first time they are tackling a rehab on a house that they kind of sort of really don't know what they're doing. And the reason why a hard money lender is willing to loan you money is because A, most hard money lenders were rehabbers or are rehabbers, and therefore when you totally screwed up, should you totally screwed up, they know how to step in and clean it up. And B, they're charging a fairly high interest rate, similar to what you're paying on your credit cards. Now, this is actually a really great question. Okay, this is actually, I mean, I'm having a little bit of fun at this person's expense, only a little bit, but this is actually a really great question because it gives me a chance to share another insight with you guys that you probably aren't thinking about, probably don't know. The people who borrow from hard money lenders are newbie rehabbers, not necessarily newbie investors, because most newbie investors shouldn't be taking on rehabs anyway. You know, get a couple of wholesale deals under your belt, get your marketing machine up and running so you can cherry pick the best deals to keep for yourself. But most newbie investors should not be doing rehabs. So the people who are doing rehabs are people who've got a little bit of experience as probably wholesalers and they're ready to tackle the first rehab. And the bottom line is, the reason why they're using hard money lenders is because either their traditional lender or line of credit or other sources of money have told them no. And therefore, the only place they can turn to is a hard money lender who's typically charging somewhere between 14 and 18% or more. But somebody who's been rehabbing houses for a while, does have a track record, does have decent credit, can book some profits and shows a little bit of cash in the bank, they're not borrowing money from hard money lenders. They're getting their money from lines of credit from community-based banks. And that's one of the things we teach in the Where to Get the Money class. Well, hard money lenders charging, let's call it 15, 16%. Let's call it 15%. Plus hard money lenders charge something called points. A point is 1% prepaid interest. So 15% plus 3 points, that's 18%. So if I borrow $100,000 for 1 year, I'm going to pay a hard money lender $18,000. Does everybody understand that? Give me a thumbs up if you understand that very simple math I just gave you. 18% times 100,000 times a year. Now, after I've rehabbed 2 or 3 houses, got a little bit of profit, have a fairly decent credit, call it a 650, 680 FICO, I can go to almost any community-based bank in America and open up $1 million line of credit. And if I open up $1 million line of credit today, I'm probably paying 5%. So if I take the same $100,000 deal, but now instead of the interest payment on the loan being 18%, it's now 5%, what am I going to pay in interest? $5,000? Give me a thumbs up if you agree 5% on 100,000 is $5,000. Okay, what's the difference between 18,000 and 5? What's the difference between 18,000 and 5? Sounds like what, $13,000? In this very simple example, if I have a buyer on my buyer's list who's an experienced rehabber, who has a line of credit with the bank, they can afford to pay $13,000 more for the property than if I'm working with a raw newbie investor that this is their first deal. Does everybody understand that? Where should that extra $13,000 go? Please put it in the chat box if you have any ideas as to where that extra $13,000 should go. Where should it go? Anybody? Yeah, me, my pocket, my pocket. In other words, why not have some of that go or all of that go into your profit? Now, you tell me, where in your Mayo formula do you plug that in? And the answer is you don't. You don't. Because you're trying to get an extra $18,000 out of the seller. What if you just pick the right buyer, excuse me, 13,000, when you just pick the right buyer will pay you more because their cost of funds is less. On top of which, if you get the right buyer who's working a certain neighborhood and they want to keep their construction crews going, they may very well take a little bit less in profits because they want to keep that team working as opposed to having their best contractor go to the 4 corners of the wind and they don't get them back for 6 months. Does everybody understand that? Give me a thumbs up if you understand that concept. All right. Now, tell me this. What if I have a brand newbie investor who's totally new to rehabbing and they need not only a hard money lender, they need my hard money lender? Are they happy that I'm bringing the deal, the money, and the contractor to the table? In other words, full service. Well, is there value in being full service anything? Is there value? Okay. What should happen to the extra money that the full service person charges? Where should that go? Where should the premium go for providing full service? Yes, me, my pocket. So whether you're dealing with experienced investors who are working with cheaper source of money, whether you're working with experienced investors / rehabbers who want to keep a construction crew growing and therefore they're willing to take a little less profit, or whether you're working with somebody who's totally new to the game, you have a potential to create a profit if you treat them right. And oh, by the way, you're going to make $10,000 or $5,000 on a wholesale fee. What do you think the average rehabber is making as a profit for fixing and flipping a house, fixing and reselling a house, rehabbing a house? What do you think their goal is? Right now, as we speak, what are most rehabbers making on the same houses you're going after and wholesaling? Some of y'all saying 25,000. No, folks, they're making 50 to 70K. Haven't I shown you enough case studies that you see what rehabbers are actually making? 70,000, 100,000, 110,000. Why are you guys saying 25,000? So let me ask you this. You are nickel and diming the seller of the property to try to squeeze out an extra 5,000 so you can do what? Have your rehabber make 80,000 rather than 75,000? Let me say it again. If you mess with that Mayo formula and start junking it up by putting a whole bunch of, well, I need to put my profit in and therefore I want my seller to take life, you are going to totally put yourself out of the game. Dawn says she made 90,000 on her first flip, 70,000 on her second. I'm telling you guys, anybody who's running around saying that rehabbers are making 25,000, that's because they're watching them stupid, flip and flip shows on TV and making every mistake in the book. Most of the folks who go through the Real Investors Rehabbing class, they are making 70,000 minimum. Many of them are making six figures on one rehab. So why in the world should you try to nickel and dime the seller out of another 5 or 10,000? It just doesn't make sense. The profits are there, folks. You just need to get more offers out the door with the Mayo formula that I gave you. Okay. All right. So is everybody with me now? Where are we? Oops, I'm on the wrong slide. Here we go. So just wait for your agent to get the phone call saying, okay, give us the highest and best. And when you get the highest and best, get out there with your contractor, get out there with your clipboard and your cost estimating sheet, and get out there with some kind of marketing material. We'll go over some basic phase 2 marketing before this 21-day class is over. But at a fundamental level, flyers that say we buy houses and bandit signs, and you ought to have those things in your car, in your truck, in your trunk, in the back seat, ready to go, so that when you get that phone call saying highest and best and you meet with contractor, you got some stuff you can hand out as you're walking the neighborhood. If you're walking the neighborhood, how much more time and effort is it to walk the neighborhood and put a flyer in somebody's door or in their mailbox? That's nothing. So don't go out there empty-handed. All right, next. Once you're looking at the potential to now get a ratified contract, we got to do some deal analysis. And I use a very simple formula called red, yellow, green light. If you are driving your car and you're approaching an intersection and the traffic light is red, what do? Put it in the chat box. Correct, you stop. If you get a red light using this formula I'm about to give you, you stop. In other words, you don't do the deal. Now, you are driving your car. You come to an intersection and the light is yellow. Tell me what you do, not what you're supposed to do. Tell me what you do, not what you're supposed to do. Some of y'all be like, speed up. Yes, you drive through with caution. You look both ways. You just make sure there's not a cop there, right? In other words, proceed, but proceed with caution, all right? Proceed with caution. So in our world, when you have a yellow light, you proceed, but you proceed with caution. And then if you're driving your car and you come to an intersection and the light is green, what do? What do? You go. You go. Some of you like, speed up, floor it. Burn rubber. You go. All right, so please write this down. And I'll give you some more examples. And I actually have a tool that will do this, but I'm not going to go bother to show you the tool today. I just want you to write this down. If you're looking at a deal and it looks like you're going to be able to get it under contract, or better yet, you have it under contract, and you only have one exit strategy. In other words, if I put it under contract and I wholesale it to somebody else, and this person I'm wholesaling it to is a total newbie and they don't know any better and they're going to lose their shirt, but you wholesale it to them and you make a profit as a wholesaler, but that's the only exit strategy, that's a red light. If you put it under contract and you say to yourself, there's really not enough margin in this deal to wholesale it to somebody else, and there's not enough margin in this deal to make sense to go ahead and rehab it, to resell it, run the numbers, But if I wind up buying this deal and I can rehab it on a really short budget and I get a Section 8 tenant in here and it might work out as a buy, fix, rent, but that's your only exit strategy, that's a red light. That's a red light. And if you put it under contract and nobody wants to buy it, so therefore you can't make a wholesale fee at any price, the numbers aren't high enough to get a decent rental out of it. So therefore it's not a good candidate, because if you rent it out, you're gonna lose $100 every month. And the only way is the hard money lender says, hey, I'll loan you the money and you might be able to resell it and make 5-10 grand. That's only one exit strategy. That's a red light. So if you're looking at a deal and it looks like you get it under contract, but you run your analysis, you do your homework, and like, God, there's only one way out of this deal, that's a red light. Your diamond member coach can help you run those numbers when you're looking at a specific deal. This is deal specific. This is not generic. In other words, I can't tell you every single situation, but I'm telling you, if you go into a deal and there's only one way out, it's a red light. Now, if you go into a deal and you look at it, okay, can I resell it? Can I rehab it, resell it, make a profit? Can I wholesale it to somebody else, but maybe it's not a great rental or it's not a great rental neighborhood? That's a yellow light, because you got at least 2 exit strategies, at least 2. And what I generally say is proceed with caution, meaning, is there anything else your diamond coach could possibly renegotiate on your behalf, like purchase price, like maybe you discovered something when you went out with the contractor, like there's roots growing through the basement and you're gonna have to spend a lot of money redoing the foundation, and that's a reason to renegotiate the purchase price. Is it, can somebody turn you on to a cheaper source of money? In other words, if you can figure out a way to make the deal a little sweeter when it only has 2 exit strategies, it's a yellow light. You proceed, but you proceed with caution. And then the situation you want to have happen, but it doesn't always happen, is, yeah, man, if I put this under contract, I can make a quick $5 grand, make it in an hour, wholesale it to somebody else on my buyer's list. Yeah, man, if I buy this property and I decide to fix it up myself, I could probably make $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 on a rehab deal. Yeah, if I buy this property, fix it up, I can probably make $1,000 a month positive cash flow. I got 3 potential exit strategies. That, my friends, is a green light. And I want you to start to think in those terms. We're going to go through and do a little more deal analysis before the class is over. You're going to wind up doing a lot of deal analysis with your diamond member coach. Those of you who are going through this program and you decided to either do the apprentice class or become a Real Investors Gold member, and I can talk more about that in a couple days, and you do that, then you are automatically and get an invite every Tuesday to come to the Dealmaker Workshop, where all we do, those of you who've been to Dealmaker Workshops know this, all we do is deal analysis and walking through deals. And so something may not look like it's very promising or has 3 exit strategies on the surface, but by the time you get through a Dealmaker Workshop or work with your diamond coach, they'll show you, hey, yeah, if we renegotiate this thing, we can get 3 exit strategies. That's a green light. Now, let me ask you a question. You are driving your car and you're coming to an intersection and the light is green and you decide, you know what, I'll play it safe. I'll just stop right here. You know light's green. Central Avenue, everybody driving 50 miles an hour, even though the posted speed limit's 45. I'm gonna just stop. What do you think the likely outcome of that decision is going to be? Put it in the chat box. Yeah, yikes. No, don't do that. No, crash and burn. Yeah. Well, guess what? If you wind up getting a deal through what we're talking about here, and it's got 3 clear exit strategies, and you decide to stop, somebody's going to run all over you, take that deal from you, and you'll be the one with your lip poked out talking about, I could have had that deal and made $30,000. I could have done that deal and made $5,000. I could have added that to my rental portfolio and had an extra $2,000 passive income. If it's a green light, you go. And I have to say that over and over again, especially the new investors, because new investors are like, I'm just not sure about this thing, Sherman. No, that's why we have this deal analysis and deal maker workshop and diamond coaches who can help you do your own deal analysis on specific deals. If you got 3 clear, very good exit strategies, that's a green light. You do the deal, even if you're scared to death, because all the best things happen in life outside of your comfort zone. Does everybody understand that concept? Give me a thumbs up, please. Okay. So after you do your little deal analysis and you got either a green light or a yellow light, in other words, either 2 or 3 exit strategies, then go ahead and ratify the contract. And you want to do that little deal analysis before you sign off. In other words, you get out there with contractor says it's going to cost X, Y, and Z. You sit down with your diamond coach says, well, I think we can renegotiate this, renegotiate that. And then you sit down, do a little deal analysis, go, okay, looks like we got at least 2 exit strategies. Do it. Ratify the contract, go forward. Make sure you got your Weasel Clause in the deal. Make sure that the proof of funds, the earnest money deposit never leaves friendly hands. If you do those 2 things, you're gonna be just fine. Even if you later on discover, oops, we didn't really have 2 exit strategies, we only had 1, and we need to get out of the deal, okay? Once you ratify the contract, you submitted your highest and best, either go up or down or whatever it is. Other side comes back and says, congratulations. By the way, I've had that happen where I have submitted a highest and best that was lower, and they came back and said, congratulations, you got the deal. I thought I lost the deal because I went down in price. Nope. They were just trying to see if I would go higher. I actually went lower, okay? I have some questions on filling out the broker agreement. Okay, we'll go over that before we get out of here today. We'll go over the broker agreement, the buyer broker agreement one more time, okay? Because a lot of people have asked me to go over that. All right, ratify the contract, which means sign all the pages. So remember all those bottoms of the pages where you initial, I told you don't initial them yet? When you're ready to ratify the contract, that's when you initial all the bottom of the pages, because now it's real, okay? Now it's gone from a written offer to a written contract, okay? It's quite possible, if not probable, that the other side is going to give you some other paperwork. When we send out these offers, we're not bothering to deal with disclosures. And I don't want you dealing with disclosures. If you wind up dealing with the disclosures on every single property when you're just putting offers out the door, you're going to add another 6 pages to the contract. You're going to add another 15 minutes to writing up the offer. Don't do that. If there's additional disclosure documents and other addendum and other things, the other side will give it to you when you're ready to ratify the contract. And if there's anything in there that scares you or scares your diamond agent or scares me, then you don't sign the deal. But most of this stuff, quite frankly, is just perfunctory, if I could use that word. But expect to get some other documents. If it's a bank REO, you're going to get some other documents, because there's not a single bank REO out there that doesn't come with 25 pages of additional addendum. Deal with it at the time. Don't stress about it now, okay? Get the offers out the door. Let the other side come back and say, you've got a chance for highest and best. Go out there with your contractor. And when you sit down with your agent, your diamond coach or your agent, they'll say, okay, by the way, we've got these additional disclosures, these additional documents we need to sign, okay? And then sign them. Next, make sure that you get a complete signed copy. Most of this back and forth goes on between the seller's agent and the buyer's agent. You'll sign it, but you may not sign everything at the same time. It might come at you piecemeal. At some point, you will have a complete ratified contract. Make sure you get a copy ASAP. Don't let days, weeks, months go by. Because remember, we got to close this thing within what? Put in the chat box. What did we say in that first page of the contract in terms of the closing date? What's it tied to? Yeah, 30 days of the what? 30 days of the ratified contract or contract ratification. So once everybody signs off on everything, that contract is ratified. You got 30 days, the clock is running. Now you got to hustle to make sure everything happens, all right? So make sure you get a copy of the complete ratified contract as soon as it becomes available. And then you go to your title company and you open up your escrow, okay? So as soon as everything's ratified, you get a complete copy, you go take it to the title company. Typically, the title company is going to want to check a couple $100, okay? So now you're really at risk. Earnest money deposit you get back if you exercise your Weasel Clause. But when you go to open up title, the title company typically wants some money up front when you start. It's not a lot, it's a couple $100, but that couple $100 is at risk. Meaning if the deal falls apart at this stage, that money will probably be lost. The title company's not going to refund it if the deal falls apart, okay? So, and again, it's only, have that conversation with your buyer agent, your buyer broker, and ask them what title company are they recommending, what title company is friendly to investors, and what do you think it's going to cost me once we get a ratified contract? Okay, they'll tell you that. Okay, next, assign the contract. Assign the contract. So once you got a ratified contract, you need to start the title work first. Don't try to assign the contract and then open title. If it takes you 3, 4, 5 days to assign that contract, or you sign it to one person and it falls apart, that person coming in to buy the deal from you, they're now T minus 30 days in counting. And if you haven't started title work as soon as the contract is ratified, that deal may not close in 30 days. In fact, that deal probably won't close in 30 days. Okay? So start the title process first. Next, when you assign the contract, number one, if you have in there that you are allowed to open up a new LLC, go open up a new LLC. Create, start the title, then get online and create your new LLC, okay? And then that becomes the party to the contract. At the same time, you should be shopping for a buyer. How do you find a buyer? You market the deal to everyone. Do not market your deal before you have a ratified contract, okay? That will make you look foolish. But once you have a ratified contract, market it to everybody. Put it on websites like Real Offers. Put it on the meetups. Remember how we talked several weeks ago? Not several weeks ago, excuse me. During the first week about joining different meetup groups. This is where we use them. Market your property on the meetup groups. Market your property in the Facebook groups. Market your property on Craigslist. Craigslist still works. There's still investors looking for deals on Craigslist. Market it high, low, everywhere. And it's really simple. I have a ratified contract and a property on Maple Street. Don't give them the actual address. Just, it's on Maple Street. Here are the terms. Well, whatever you got it under contract for, what kind of a profit do you want to make? And in addition to the profit, the buyer also needs to reimburse your costs. They need to reimburse your EMD, and they need to reimburse what you paid for title. And in fact, they need to reimburse for any and all costs that you come in that you incur. I will give you the proper paperwork. It'll be in your packet tomorrow. We will walk through it the day after tomorrow, because tomorrow I got a special treat for you, got a special guest. But the day after tomorrow, we're going to walk through the paperwork for each and every one of these things. Okay? I'm just giving you the process right now. I don't want to overload you. Okay? So you market to everybody. In fact, we're going to use that very first deal you ever get to build your buyers list and build a big and powerful 7-figure buyers list. As we said before in the first week, you don't go fishing with fishing hooks that have no worms on them. If you want to catch fish, you better put at least a worm on that hook. Better yet, put a mackerel or a sardine, because fish love to eat other fish. This is how vicious they are, right? We need to make sure we have some kind of bait to build that buyers list. And the best bait in the world is what? Put it in the chat box. The currency of real estate is the currency of real estate. That's right. If you want to build a buyers list, you better have yourself some deals. That's the best way to build a buyers list. Again, we'll talk about that the day after tomorrow, okay? So you build your buyers list, and then after you build that buyers list, identify the buyers on your buyers list, because I hope you guys understand, not everybody who gets on your buyers list is actually a buyer. How can you tell if somebody's actually a buyer? You put a deal in front of them, and they buy, or at least make an attempt to buy. And I can tell you this, if you have a buyers list with 100 names on it, you do not have a 100-name buyers list. You have a 3-name buyers list, because the same rule applies, about 3%. Well, what are the other 97 people doing? They're just curious. They're just like you. They just want to get on a list. They just want to see what's going on. But no matter how good the deal is that you present to them, they will never make any attempt whatsoever to buy the deal from you. Some of y'all are like, well, I don't want them on my list. Hold on. Because what you may very well find out is that when you build a buyer's list by offering people a chance to get your deal, 3% of the people who respond are, in fact, buyers. But 20 to 25% of the people on the list are private investors. So before you start kicking people off your list because they're not buying, also give them a chance to become a private investor. And I'll talk more about that before this class is over in a couple of days. But right now, I want to focus on the buyer part, the 3% of the list that are buyers. So you put the deal out there, market it high and wide, and let's say you wind up getting 100 names. Out of the 100 names, 3 will actually step forward and make some kind of an offer. They may not be the offer you want, but they'll make some kind of an offer. They'll ask you for more information. Those are your 3 real buyers. Whoever gets the deal, cultivate a relationship. Whoever gets the deal, cultivate a relationship. And the 3%, in other words, the other 2 out of 100 who don't get the deal, cultivate a relationship. Because that's how you begin to start doing things like reverse wholesaling. Anybody here ever heard the term reverse wholesaling? Give me a thumbs up if you ever heard that term, right? And even if you don't know what it means, reverse wholesaling is really simple. Find the buyer first and then go shopping for a deal. That's all it means. Well, how do you find the buyer first and then go shopping for a deal? You have a buyer's list. You get to know who's on the buyer's list. You cultivate a relationship with the people who really are buyers on the list. And then you ask them, okay, where are you interested in? What are you interested in? That is the other way you pivot into phase 2, because they're going to say, hey, I don't want a deal just anywhere. I want deals specifically in 20772 or 20716 or 20724, whatever. And then you start looking for deals in those neighborhoods using a combination of phase 1 and phase 2 to satisfy the needs of your buyers. And that's when your wholesale profits go from $5,000 a deal to $20,000 or $30,000 a deal. Anybody who heard Howard Johnson talking quite recently about a deal he recently made 100 grand on? That was because he was shopping for a deal for a specific buyer. And when he called that buyer and said, hey, listen, I got a property in that neighborhood you've been telling me about. How much are you willing to offer for this property? Howard had already pre-negotiated a deal with the seller for $100,000 less than the buyer was willing to pay. He made $103,000 wholesale fee. Howard Johnson, Mr. Incredible, setting all kinds of new records. Happens. But you don't find those deals in the MLS. You find those deals because you have a potential buyer, and then you start going into those neighborhoods and focusing on the FSBO deals, the ones that are not in the MLS. Because had that seller actually had a real estate agent, there's no way in God's creation that real estate agent would have let him sell that house for $100,000 less than what it was potentially worth, even as a fixer-upper. Wouldn't have happened. The reason why Howard made such an obscene profit is because the seller didn't want to bother hiring a real estate agent. They just wanted first person walking in off the street who was waving dollar bills. He's like, sure, you can have it. You can have it for X because that's what my mama paid for it. Well, your mama paid for it. Your mama bought that house in 1964. That house is worth a whole lot more than what your mama paid for it in 1964. But because they didn't spend a nickel on the property, they inherited it. They had no clue what it was worth. And Howard made $103,000 wholesale profit, for about 8 minutes worth of work. Anybody here want to make $100,000 for 8 minutes worth of work? That's how you do it. But in order to get there, you have to build a buyer's list, and then you have to cultivate a relationship with that buyer's list. Does everybody understand that core concept? Give me a thumbs up. So how do you build a buyer's list? What's the one thing you need to build a buyer's list? Please type into the chat box. A deal. Not deals, not plural, a deal. And what's the fastest way to get a deal in the next 21 days? What's the fastest way to get a deal in the next 21 days? Only 2 answers to that. Nope. Nope. Nope, 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 nope. Only way to get a deal in 21 days or less is listen to Sherman, thank you, or hack the matrix. It's not just the offers, okay? Understand, I'm giving this to you guys, breaking it down step by step by step. If you put out offers, but you don't have a diamond coach, you don't have an agent an investor agent who understands what they're doing, you'll never be able to convert an offer into a deal. If you only put out offers, but you don't know anything about setting up LLCs, you won't be able to assign that contract and you won't get a deal. It's the entire thing I've given you. It's the entirety of what we've been going over for the past 2 weeks and we'll go over for this week. It's all of it. That's what the 21 Days to Real Estate Riches system is all about. It's about hacking the matrix, getting somebody who knows what they're doing, who can bring a whole team together to help you close that first deal, and then use that first deal as bait to build a buyer's list to then pivot from phase 1 to phase 2 and start making serious money. That first deal is everything. Even if all you do is squeak out $1,000, having that first deal is bait on the hook that allows you to build a buyer's list to get yourself 100 names minimum on that list and 3 real buyers that will then tell you, okay, now go into these neighborhoods and find me deals and I'll write you $20,000 checks. That's the average amount that people are making on phase 2 deals. But you'll never get to phase 2, until you implement phase 1. You will never get the $1 million house in the gated community until you get past that first deal. That first deal is everything to you. Everything. And the reason why some of you are so frustrated and not where you want to be is because you're so busy chasing everything other than the first deal. You're wondering why this thing doesn't work. Because you got to get past the first deal. Do you guys understand how important that first deal is? It's everything. You can't build a buyer's list without a deal. You can't pay for the team you need without a deal. You can't go in motion unless you are working towards getting the first deal done. Part of the reason why I have been a little irritated the past couple of days is because I'm teaching people how to do a first deal and they're opening up their microphones, listening to the news and listening to other speakers. They're sitting, like one person the other day was listening to some, what the hell is this thing called? Clubhouse? And they're listening to Grant Cardone talk about $1 million deals and they still haven't got past the first one. They're not going anywhere anytime soon. And confusing activity for progress. Guys, I'm giving you the keys to the kingdom if you'll only take them from my hand. You've got to get past the first deal if you're going to build a business of any size. Can I get a thumbs up if you understand where I'm coming from? Okay, so we use the deal to build a list. And then we build a relationship with the people. In other words, finding out who on that list is really a buyer. And then we cultivate that relationship and pivot into phase 2 to target specific neighborhoods more than just the MLS to find deals for those buyers and get bigger checks. And along the way, we are hiring and building up the rest of our team so we can start to put this thing on autopilot. You cool with that? All right, so build a relationship with your list. Again, allows you to do reverse wholesaling, full service wholesaling, and pivot into phase 2 wholesaling. And the money's in the list. Your whole business is in building that list and relationships with people on that list. That's when your business explodes. That's when your business explodes. Yes, you can make a pretty decent part-time living mining the MLS for these deals we're going to go after. Yes, you can get this thing to the point that you're generating a deal every 21 days to 30 days or so, because the MLS sort of ebbs and flows, right? But the real power is getting that first deal to build everything else you need in an accelerated fashion so that you can really start to live the life of your dreams and be able to pay for things like an administrative assistant who does 90% of the work while you keep 90% of the profits. Does that make sense to anybody other than me? Give me a thumbs up if that makes sense to you. Cool. All right, so let me answer a couple questions and then we'll talk about homework. and then we'll get out of here. Folks keep saying, preach. I'm done now. I'm exhausted. Y'all exhaust me, but it's good. It's good exhaustion. Somebody had an aha moment, hack the matrix. Cool. What were we asking about? Oh, yeah. The buyer broker agreement. Let me find the buyer broker agreement. Let's go through that real quick. So let me pull mine up. Buyer broker. Problem is I got so many buyer broker agreements. I have buyer broker agreements for my commercial deals that were drafted by my real estate attorney. And then we got the buyer broker agreements that I gave you guys. Okay, that's not the one I want. That's not the one I want because that's the one my attorney drafted. Commercial buyer broker agreements are very different than the ones that are in the matrix. So 21 days. Broker. Let me try it this way. More contract. More residential sales contract. General addendum. Why am I not finding this? Let me try it this way. Look at the zip forms. Hang in there with me, guys. I'm just trying to find this document. Could go to packet. Recent. Okay, there we go. So you stop sharing screen. You share screen. Okay, can you guys see this okay? Do I need to blow it up more? Exclusive buyer tenant residential broker agreement. Can you guys see that okay? Give me a thumbs up. All right, those of you who wanted me to go through this, what specifically do you want me to point out in this agreement? A little bigger. Okay, we'll make it a little bigger. How's that? That work? Okay, so those of you, several of you, 3 or 4 of you asked me to go through that. What specifically do you need me to explain? Section 7.1 broker. All right, 7.1 broker's compensation. Okay, so broker's compensation, the amount of broker compensation is not prescribed by law. Compensation shall be 5% of the gross sales price. And again, this is subject to negotiation. We typically charge 5%. Oh, number 1, during the term of this agreement or any extension thereof, buyer or any person or entity acting on buyer's behalf execute a written agreement to purchase or lease any property. Through the efforts of anyone, including the buyer, which the buyer within 72 hours thereof shall furnish a copy of such written agreement. If during a period of 90 days following the expiration or termination of this agreement, buyer executes a lease. All right, so here's what this says. This says that you're entering into an exclusive relationship, and that if you terminate the relationship, but then later on purchase a property that was negotiated on or started on during a 90-day window, then you would still owe compensation. So in other words, we have seen people in negotiation on a deal and then cancel their agreement, and then the deal comes through and they don't want to pay the commission. Now, understand this. How is it that somebody's going to communicate with you that one of your offers has been accepted? Who's going to make that phone call to you? Your buyer's agent. And we have literally seen deals come back a year after an offer was written because the seller's agent convinced the seller to accept a different offer, and ultimately that deal totally fell apart. And now the seller's agent, trying to get a commission somehow, some way, calls back all of the offers that they had that they rejected and says, is your client still interested? I can give you at least four. I'll say four solid. I give you four solid examples of deals that came to fruition 6 months later, 9 months later, 1 full year after an offer is written. And what this says is that for 90 days, the person who was negotiating on your behalf still gets paid if it happens, even if you terminate the agreement. In other words, if you terminate the agreement and then the deal comes back live and they call you up, they can still get a commission based on the terms that were laid out. That's what that says. And I've seen it happen. Okay, so that's what that clause says. But again, how would you even know that the seller is interested in doing business with you? The seller's agent's going to call the buyer's agent, and the buyer's agent's going to be like, I don't even have an agreement with that person anymore, but let me call them anyway to see if they're still interested. That's how that conversation is going to take place. Okay, because when you put the offers out in the street, the offer will say who the agent is. Okay, so they're the ones who are going to get the phone call after the fact. All right. Somebody asked section 13. Section 13. Section 13 says the addendum marked below, which are hereby attached, are made a part of this agreement. So I would generally recommend, and again, this is going to happen when you sit down with your diamond coach or you talk to me over the phone, whatever that is. I generally recommend that we go ahead and do a consent for dual agency. Consent for dual agency means that if we have a property that's listed with real investors, you can still go after it because you have consented to dual agency. And again, as I remind you, in Maryland, dual agency can only happen when there's a brokerage firm that has more than 3 agents. Well, we certainly have more than 3 agents. So somebody will be representing the seller, somebody will be representing you, the buyer, and I'm kind of Switzerland, I'm in the middle and I'm neutral. Without that consent for dual agency, we can't show you any properties that are listed with real investors. Now, real investors is not a listing shop. You know, we're not typically in the business of going after listings like some of the other franchise brokerage firms do, like Coldwell Banker, Keller Williams, Long and Foster. Like their whole business model is based on getting listings. That's not us. Our whole business model is based on servicing investors. Having said that, we do from time to time have some investors that want to offload some properties. Cheryl Philpotts consistently has these investors out of Baltimore that want to dump multiple properties. And some of those can be very attractive to our members who are also investors. Without this consent for dual agency, we can't show them to you. So if you want to see what other folks have and they're listing it with us, we're going to need to have that signed. But that's a conversation we will have. You sign this, you send it in, and we can always go back and check that box and have you initial it and add that in. Okay? Notification of dual agency within the team, that's fairly unlikely, but it could happen, and we can certainly sign that addendum when it happens. And disclosure of license status addendum, that again just says that one or more parties to the contract is a licensed real estate professional, and that's an addendum that says that. Okay. So any other things you want me to cover on the buyer broker agreement? On 13, do you want us to only check dual agency or also add the others? I would say don't check anything for now. And then when we're ready to actually engage after I have a conversation with you, or your diamond coach has a conversation with you, if it looks like we do need to sign off on one of these others, we'll do it then. Okay. But I would just say sign it and get it in. Don't worry about these. We can always add the addendum later. And if we add the addendum later, you just have to initial next to it. Okay. Do I use my clone or me personally for buyer beginning? Okay, you can use yourself personally, but I never recommend it for anything. But if it's like, I just want to get a buyer broker agreement in place and get started while I'm waiting for the state to ratify, then go ahead and sign the buyer agreement as you personally. And then when your LLC paperwork comes in from the state, we get rid of this one and just do a new one. But at least you have the benefit of having the fiduciary relationship and us working on your behalf and getting started where you're waiting for the paperwork to come in. Okay. Could it be handwritten type? This particular one, this is your agreement with Real Investors. I don't care. If it's easy for you to do it handwritten, fine. If you want to, it's only the offers that we're putting out in the street that I really strongly advocate that they be handwritten. And that's the offer, the contract, not the addendum page. I strongly recommend that your addendum page be typed because you don't want to bring, that's the one page you don't want to bring a lot of attention to. Okay. The purpose of doing handwritten is to make it stand out, to make people read it, to make people pay attention. You don't want that to happen on what you have on the addenda, because then the addenda is where you talk about subject to the approval of the hard money lender, and that being your Weasel Clause. You don't want to put a flashlight on your Weasel Clause. Okay. All right. Did I get everything? I'm trying to see where everybody was asking me to go over docs. I think that's everything. Steve, hopefully I answered all your questions. But if you still want to hop on the phone, we can do that. Where do you buy the book you shared in the video from day 13, Mapped Out DC? That was the Rand McNally Street Guide that I talked about in day 13 when you're going out driving around neighborhoods. You can get that off of Amazon.com. You can also get some old ADC maps. Some of them are starting to get a little expensive in Amazon. They're now considered quote unquote rare books. But you used to be able to get them at Staples. Staples used to have them right there at the checkout line, in a big old sort of at the counter tray. But I haven't been inside of Staples in well over a year, so used to. Well, what you're looking for is what's called a street guide. You know, a book grid map, and those book grid maps are of a specific city or a specific area. You want DC and surrounding counties, in my opinion, if you're doing DC. If you're in Atlanta, you want Atlanta, metro area, whatever. But whatever market you're going to be working, I strongly believe that you should have one of those maps, street guides, with you in the car, along with that, you know, pen set and stickies that I talked about. Okay. Can I handwrite on the buyer tenant agreement? You can handwrite out the buyer tenant agreement if you want, or you can use a PDF editing tool. Either one's fine. Either one's fine. All right. I think that's it. Any other questions? Okay. My questions regard to upfront fees. What's the difference between a non-refundable retainer advance fee? So in the world of residential real estate, all the boards of realtors that I know of allow for real estate agents to charge upfront fees, what they call prepaid commission. At Real Investors, we allow our diamond members to charge an upfront fee, prepaid commission, but not, it's called prepaid commission, but what it really is when you get to the settlement table on your first deal, the seller will pay the commission. However, every brokerage company typically charges some kind of an admin fee. By classifying it as quote unquote prepaid commission, we can oftentimes get the seller to cover that cost, but not always. And if the seller doesn't cover the cost, then the buyer covers the cost. And that prepaid fee currently is about $500, right? Call it $500, right? And that goes to pay all the admin work behind the scenes, because most of our agents, especially most of our diamond member coaches, especially the top ones, they're on 100% commission. These are commissioned salespeople. but their commission's not being paid by you, it's being paid by the seller. That's how the residential real estate world works. So there's still an administrative fee that the brokerage firm has to charge because we got to keep paperwork in boxes for up to 7 years. And somebody has to go through at the end of the year and pull all the paperwork together and cross-match the commission worksheets and the commissions with the listings and issue what's called 1099s. So there's a certain admin cost to doing the brokerage. So we charge a separate fee for that. Sometimes the seller pays it, oftentimes the buyer pays it. What happens to real investors is when somebody takes on a client, they ask for that first amount of money to be paid up front. Now, before we finish this class, I promised you guys I was going to show you a technique whereby you can double your income in your first year in business. So 100,000 becomes 200,000. Are you guys liking that idea of me teaching you that? All right. Let me let the cat out of the bag and tell you a little bit more about that. I'm going to teach you a technique called look over my shoulder, oftentimes abbreviated as LOS. I'll explain it in greater depth in a couple of days when we get there. We're not there yet. We're not on those slides yet, but it's called LOS. And the basic concept is once you start doing the thing, once you start making deals happen, it is very easy for you to charge somebody a fee to look over your shoulder to see how it's done. And that can add up to a substantial amount of money when you do it the right way. For me, it added up to an extra $100,000 my second year in the business of doing what I was doing as an investor. Does anybody like the idea of making an extra 100K for just letting people look over your shoulder? Okay. Well, believe it or not, the standard fee that I charge, which is the same standard fee today, 20 plus years, is $500. People will gladly pay you $500 to spend a day with you looking over your shoulder, learning how to do this real estate thing. I'm not talking about a coaching program. I'm not talking about you coming up with some syllabus. I'm not talking about you creating a training program like I've done in this 21 days. I'm talking about just letting people look over your shoulder. Here's why I'm saying this. When you sit down with your diamond coach and you say, hey, listen, I've gone through the 21-day program and I've practiced, but I'm still a little queasy about how everything comes together. And they're going to be like, no problem. I've done this 100 times before. I got it under my belt. You can look over my shoulder and watch me help you pull all this together. And oh, by the way, after you watch me do it 2 or 3 times, you'll be able to do it second nature. In fact, you'll even be able to teach somebody how to do it so that you can delegate it to somebody else. Is it worth $500 to look over somebody's shoulder who's going to show you how to make 10 grand in the next 30 days? Anybody think that's okay? Think of that $500 like a look over my shoulder fee. Okay? That's all I'm going to say about it, right? Now, what is it really? It's prepaid commission off your first deal that's going to be collected at the settlement table anyway. It's something you're going to have to pay on your first deal unless we can get it from the seller. And what we have done, what I have done, so blame Sherman, is I'm allowing our diamond coaches to charge that fee because I figure if somebody wants to basically learn this business at a deeper level by looking over your shoulder and they're not willing to cough up $500, they're probably not serious about the business anyway. If you have a really hard time coming up with the 500, we have mechanisms to cover it for you. Okay? So don't let nobody should be bent out of shape or nobody should be concerned about, well, gee, what if I don't have an extra 500? Don't worry about it. You're just say to your diamond coach, hey, by the way, Sherman said there's a way I can get this covered. We have a way to get it covered. Now, we ain't covering it for free. So if we put up the 500 and you get that first deal done and you make 5,000, we want the 500 back plus 500. We want the VIG, baby. We want the VIG. You're like, well, that's not fair. Didn't I just tell you an hour ago, life's not fair, get over it, right? So if you don't have a 500, we'll give you the we'll code a 500, but we want something for the 500. I just suggest don't go to Starbucks for a month and you'll have way more than the 500. Given the fact, I stopped going to Starbucks years ago. What's Starbucks? Can you get in and out of Starbucks for less than $10? So what's $500? 50 trips to Starbucks? If you're going twice a day? Just saying. But anyway, that is what our folks do. Every brokerage firm handles that a slightly different way. Okay. All right. So let me see. Got a couple more questions, and then I'm ready to close this thing up. So I am open to answering questions. Can our diamond member coach recommend a contractor? We don't. Yes, you should expect. You should expect that your diamond member coach brings all the other team players to the table, especially if you don't have those connections. You should expect that. That's why we said that's the first critical hire. That's the first person to bring on your team. And quite frankly, any real estate agent who's worth anything should have connections that you as a first-time new investor don't have. Title company, contractor, real estate attorney, right? All those things you're going to need to get deals closed, they have access to them. Hard money sources, right? They're going to bring them. So that's why that's the most important person to bring onto your team after you, your spouse, and your mentor. That coach helps unlock everything to get that first deal done. And don't forget, this whole class is about getting the first deal done in 21 days or less. There are other players and other things and other parts of the team you're going to need as you grow as an investor. But for the first deal, that diamond coach, that investor agent who knows what they're doing, they bring everything to the table so you don't have to. Okay. All right. So back to, and I'm going to start closing this thing out now. But I did see a couple more questions. Let me make sure I answer all of the questions in the chat before we do that. How would the broker agreement work if I am an agent with a different brokerage? You can be an agent at a different brokerage firm and still hire real investors to be your agent. You just will not be acting in your capacity as an agent. You'll be acting in your capacity as the managing member of your LLC. And no, you won't get a referral fee. You can't have everything, right? Life's not fair, right? But look, once you get a couple of deals under your belt, you basically, you know what, I really, I got it, right? But I gotta tell you, my first year in the business, I had a real estate license. And I still hired a real estate agent at a different firm because I was not 100% comfortable about what I was doing. And after we did about 3 or 4 deals together, I'm like, okay, I can get in the hang of it. But for the sake of the relationship, we continued on for a full year. And at the end of the year, because that's what we agreed to do, at the end of the year, I just started doing everything for myself. But that first year, yes, I was using an agent at a different brokerage firm just to get comfortable and confident in my abilities. Can you move your license to real investors? Of course you can. Let's have that conversation. If I have private money invested in a deal, I don't think I understand that question, but we can talk about that. But yeah, we love, oh my gosh, we love investor agents, especially investor agents who already have some experience, either as an investor or an agent. Either one works, because if you have skills as an agent and you understand how the business works, teaching you how to become an investor is easy. And if you have skills as an investor and want to get your license or move your license, we always welcome that. I mean, we may have to break your legs and reset them if you got bad habits, because depending upon what kind of investing you do and where you learn how to do that investing, we may have to have a conversation, because we don't do the shaky okey doke stuff, right? But otherwise, yeah, we absolutely love and adore investor agents, and that's why we call them diamond members, because we wouldn't even give them the title diamond member unless we really loved and adored them. So yes, we would love to have you. Let's have that conversation. All right. I think that's everything. Oh, Marcia said she got her ADC or Rand McNally at Staples recently. Okay, cool. All right, so with that, let's talk about finishing out this section. Is everybody okay with what I was talking about tonight about the 7 steps? Once you're ready, start writing offers up. Okay. So again, the only thing holding you back from actually putting offers in the street is just having an agent. You need to have that agent, because somebody's got to talk to that seller's agent. That should never be you, unless, of course, you're calling on behalf of your agent, acting in an administrative sort of manner. Okay. So if you guys can see my screen, okay. Day 15 homework. Day 15 homework looks a lot like day 14 homework. Looks a lot like day 13. Please watch the videos. Please continue to practice. And then For the buyer broker agreement, if you want us to entertain the buyer broker agreement, if you want us to be your agent, if you want me to assign a diamond coach to help you, work with you, get us the buyer broker agreement. You can email it to broker@realinvestors.com, or you can fax it to 301-218-4337. 301-218-4337. There it is right there. Broker@realinvestors.com or 301-218-4337. I'll take a look at it. I'll talk to you about what it is you want to do. I will assign somebody on the team to be your coach and help you get this machine up and running. Okay. Question was, how long does the buyer broker relationship for this class? This class is over in 6 days. Again, this is a 21-day class, and I have loved every minute of it. I've loved being with you guys every minute, but I will never do this again. Somebody says, Sherman, when are you doing it again? I want to sign up for the next one. I hope you understand. The first time I did the 21 Days to Real Estate Riches class, Riches course was almost 20 years ago. And this one I'm doing live, I seriously doubt I will ever do this live again. Not that I don't love you guys, I do. But you guys understand, I spend 5-6 hours a day to come spend 2 hours, 3 hours with you. That's 9 hours a day to teach this class. And I know this stuff. I mean, you guys know I know this stuff, right? And even still, I'm like, do I want to say that? Do I want to put this slide here, move that slide there? And I had all these 100 slides, and I've been moving slides all over the place. Like, why? Because when I get together with you guys live, I realize I'm either going too fast, too slow, too hard, too soft, right? And I adjust how I deliver what I've been delivering to you guys. Here we are on day 15, and I'll continue to do so until we get to the 21st day. I adjust it based on the feedback I get from you. So if I feel like I need to go faster, I go faster. If I feel like I need to go slower, right? And if I feel like, gee, I taught that yesterday, but it just wasn't quite what I wanted, I'll go spend another 3, 4, 5 hours getting ready for the next day's lesson to make sure that whatever I covered the day before that I didn't quite feel right about, that I feel good about it the next day. Because I want you guys to get real good value. I want to get top value for this class, for this course, which you pay. Now, what happens when this 21 days is over? For some of you, you got what you need to just go make it happen. And if you need us to be your buyer broker and you're ready to run, go run. Some of you are going to be like, gee, Sherman, I'd kind of like to have somebody coaching, mentoring me, and I've kind of gotten used to, hearing your voice every day. Can we continue? Okay, we can talk about the apprentice class, which is a 90-day, but it's nothing like this. Trust me, it's nothing like this, because I don't know if I could go every day for 90 days. I'd drop dead if I went every day like this for 90 days, right? But that 90-day class is a slower but more intimate. We got over 100 people in this. In the apprentice class, I'm going to be working with you in teams of 5. It's way more intimate, and it's a slightly slower pace. It's a different pace. I'll just say that it's a different pace than what we've been doing here, right? So some of you, the apprentice class is the logical next step. Some of you guys, it's like, okay, I don't have time for this right now. I mean, what did Carl say the other day? I got when we watched the case study, I got the 21-day course, and I knew I didn't have time for it. So I sort of like, okay, I'm gonna put this on the back burner, take care of a couple of things, and then come back to it. Cool, it works. Look, we're all adults here, right? We're adults, right? We know what we got going on in our lives. And if we got something that like the apprentice class is not quite right, then maybe we sign up for a gold membership for the year at Real Investors and come to the Dealmaker Workshop, every Tuesday, and do a master class with Sherman every once in a while. And because gold membership now includes at least one master class once a month on one particular topic that we drill down. So example, our next master class, which will start after this class is over, is going to be on building your private investor list from your buyers list. How do you cultivate and get names out of your buyers list to turn them into private investors? But that's going to be 2 Thursday nights for 2 hours. That's a 4-hour mini class or master class, right? And so you're going to get that with your gold membership in Real Investors. Of every month, we're going to spend a couple Thursdays diving deep into one really niche topic that can help you build your business, right? And then, of course, I do, for the members, office hours, which is just open office hours, just answer questions on Wednesday. So there's a couple of different paths. I'd say at least 3 paths to take when this class is over. Path number 1, engage us, engage the brokerage side. let us be your buyer broker, let us hire a diamond agent, and let's work with you on an individual basis. It won't be with me, it'll be with one of the coaches to help you get that, those offers out the door and build on what you learned in the 21-day course. For those of you who feel like you'd really rather do this in sort of a group setting, sign up for the apprentice class. And let's spend 90 days together in a slightly more relaxed sort of pace, but smaller, more intimate. I'm working with 4 of you at a time. And as a team, get something up and running. And if that doesn't work, then just sign up for a 1-year membership at Real Investors and let us work on your schedule, knowing that we're going to be here 2-3 times a week to answer questions and dive a little deeper. You pick which of those 3 paths makes the most amount of sense. And some of you guys are going to be like, I've had enough of Sherman, I'm out of here. Woo! And that's okay too. It'll be all right. But this class is over in 6 days. And so the buyer broker agreement, if you take that path, will obviously be for post this class, because we're probably not even going to start getting people signed up until probably maybe a couple people. And some of you are already engaged. Some of you guys already got your buyer broker agreements in earlier. And some of you already had buyer broker agreements in place. And hopefully this 21 days has helped kind of clarify and refine exactly what you should be doing and what you should be doing versus what your agent is doing. But your buyer broker agreement is probably going to be 90 days to 6 months. It just depends on what pace you want to set, and we can adjust it accordingly. So that's why I say sign it, because the second thing that's going to happen as soon as you sign it is we're going to get on the phone together. I'm going to get a better understanding of what you're specifically looking for, and I'm going to pick the right diamond member coach to work with you on an individualized basis to get you up and running. And if it makes sense to do 6 months, we'll do 6 months. If it makes sense to do 3 months, we'll do 3 months. If it makes sense to do 9 months, we'll do 9 months. Whatever makes the most amount of sense for your specific situation, that's what we will mutually agree to. And if we don't mutually agree to it, then I won't countersign, and therefore we won't have an agreement, and you can go do what you want to do with whomever you want to do it with, okay? But I'm assuming that if you fill it out and send it in, you want to get on the phone with me, have a conversation, let's figure out makes the most amount of sense for you, okay? So I hope that helps. All right, so back to homework. Continue working on the contracts. Again, those of you who are uploading contracts, I don't need the whole contract. I only want to see the pages that are fill in the blank. And I just want to make sure you're filling in the blanks appropriately, okay? So don't bother uploading the boilerplate stuff. Just give me the addendum. I want to see that you've typed the addendum, not handwritten the addendum. Give me the fill in the blanks. I want to see that you've handwritten the fill in the blanks, not typed in the fill in the blanks. And by the time we've done it, a couple times together, you let me critique it, comment on it, you're going to be good to go. You really are. I mean, you guys are you guys are outstanding. You guys have been handing in your homework, uploading your homework, doing the homework. You are right there. You know what you need to do. Now we just need to get you matched up with a coach and get those offers out in the street for real, so that you can get to that point that you got the highest and best, and you can start bringing in your contractor and building out the rest of your team and making some money. That's what it's all about. Also, please make sure that you're watching those videos that I did on day 12 that talk about the neighborhoods and the grading of the neighborhoods and how that whole concept of subdivision and neighborhood works. And then make sure that you have downloaded the Real Investors mobile MLS on your mobile devices, because it's not going to do you any good in the street on your desktop. And just, again, play with it. And then we're going to start talking about, specifically how to use it and set it for specific parameters. Okay. So for tomorrow, day 16, I got a special guest. You're going to love this guy. This is somebody who was a traditional real estate agent who had spent like 7, 8, 9 years doing traditional brokerage stuff for one of the top producing real estate teams in the region, for the #1 real estate brokerage firm in the region. And then he decided to take the blue pill. Or a red pill. I can't remember. What did Morpheus say? Red pill, blue pill? Whichever one got him out of the matrix, right? Whichever one to get you out of there, that's the one he took. And I'm not disclosing his identity yet. I'm just going to call him Mr. X. And he's going to share with you not only his experience actually as a top real estate agent at a top brokerage firm doing traditional real estate stuff, but why specifically the things I've been sharing with you over the past 16 days really do work, and some insider secrets about how to make this thing really sizzle. And I think now's the appropriate time that you guys got a basic understanding, a basic background. Now's the perfect time to bring him in and share some of those experiences so that you guys can understand that you really do know at this point, like we're not even done yet, but you really do know more than 99.9% of the real estate agents out there who've got a license know when it comes to investing. And specifically what you know is dangerous when it comes to cracking the matrix or hacking the matrix. Because you guys understand stuff that even traditional real estate agents haven't quite figured out yet. And that's why, quite frankly, the average real estate agent in the Washington, D.C. area average makes about $48,000 a year off their real estate license. And why people who come through our training typically are blowing past that in about 5-6 months if they're actually doing the deal on a part-time basis. On a part-time basement office, work out of a spare bedroom, and then get somebody else who's half a world away doing 90% of the work so you can keep 90% of the profits. Most real estate agents who do traditional stuff don't have a clue. And he's going to share why that is. And again, really how to take advantage of the stuff that you've been learning over the past 16 days. And we'll completely know by the time we finish up at the end of the week. Okay. So please be on time, 7 o'clock. And here is, oh yeah, I'm going to get you guys out your books tomorrow with all of the cheat sheets and checklists. If you have already decided that you definitely want to do the upcoming apprentice class, quick reminder, the early bird discount ends at noon tomorrow. You can sign up at lifechangingeducation.com. You'll see me. You'll see this beautiful picture of me down in St. Thomas at this beautiful house that's being built and the whole backstory on that. Most importantly, you'll learn more about what's going to happen in the apprentice program should you choose to accept that mission and go forward, okay? But the discount ends tomorrow, so please don't miss out on that. Again, 100% money back guarantee. So if you sign up and you later decide you can't do it, can't swing it, don't have time for whatever, you get a 100% discount. And there is a payment plan on the website. So pay, if you're not sure, make the minimum payment to save your seat. And if you later on change your mind, call Lisa and she'll issue a full refund on the spot, okay? But don't miss the discount. It's pretty significant. Don't miss it because it ends tomorrow, okay? So don't miss out on it. And I would hate to see you say, yeah, at the end of the week, yeah, I definitely want to do the apprentice thing, and then you're paying more money than you should be, okay? All right, so here's our case study for tonight, and then we're gonna get out of here, and I've already given you your homework assignment, so here's our case study, and then afterwards, we'll talk about seeing you guys tomorrow, okay? Here's case study.
Adams Street using phase 2 marketing from the 21-day course. We started posting these signs out here. My go-to form of marketing is definitely the bandit signs. They're my most successful marketing tactic. All of my deals, with the exception of one, has actually come from bandit signs. So they've been working pretty well for me. My signs stand out from the rest of the typical Levi's house signs that you may see around, which I think is key. So our goal is actually to put out at least 100 signs a week. However, we don't always hit that target. Some areas our signs stay up a little bit longer, they get longer hang time versus other areas. They might only last a day or two, if you go into certain areas. So if our signs are still hanging up in that area, we won't replace them, we'll drive past and go to the next area that we need to replace the sign. But overall, our target is to do at least 100 signs. When we first started putting our signs out, we were getting multiple calls a day from whether it was someone looking to sell their home, or it may have been another investor, a cash buyer, or another wholesaler looking to network. But on average, at this point, since we've been putting them out for about 6-7 months, maybe at this point, I'll say we're getting at least 3 to 5 calls a week. It did take long at all for us to find this deal. Once we really started doing the phase 2 marketing and putting our signs out, we immediately started getting phone calls pretty much on a daily basis. And within about 2 weeks, I believe it was, we got a phone call from the owner of this home. He called us. He told told us that he was in a situation and he needed to sell his house fast. We did have some obstacles. We came out and looked at the property. We had an agreed upon price with the seller, and then we went to go write the contract up, and the seller came back to us and said, "Oh, well, we got an offer from someone else," and we was like, "Well, what's that offer?" So we did some negotiation back and forth with the seller here. He said he liked us and wanted to do the deal with us because he actually liked us, even though our price wasn't the highest. So we did end up getting the deal locked up. And then we actually ended up going back to the seller after we had the deal locked up and got a price reduction, which brought us back to our original offer price. We assigned this deal for $14,000, closed on it in 30 days, and we made $14,000 off the deal. The 21-day program really built a foundation for us working as wholesalers. Phase one marketing, we really learned the ins and outs of the contract, which is really important. And we also learned where the hot areas were by submitting those phase one marketing. So then we knew where to target our marketing for our phase two. Once we did that, and we stepped out here and beat the street and started putting these signs out, we was getting calls every day. And then the second week came around and we got this deal here. If you're a new investor just starting out with the 21-day course, definitely work the program. Start with your phase one marketing. It's really important. And the most important thing that I find with real estate investing is to be consistent and just keep doing it and don't give up, because you could be, right around the corner from your deal. It's just a process, a learning process, but definitely be consistent. My name is Michelle Dupree. I'm from Dunkirk, Maryland. I made $14,000 from this wholesale deal. I'm a real investor and I get real checks.
Woo! All right, guys, on a scale of 1 to 5, 1 being this was a total waste of my time, 5, I'll see you tomorrow bright and early to hear Mr. X. How we do? All right. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. There will be a section to post homework for tonight. Again, it's the same assignment as the past couple nights. Give me your contracts, the pages that do have blanks to fill in. Give me your comments on the videos about neighborhood. And then for those of you who want to work with us, want to work with me, either email to broker@realinvestors.com, your signed buyer broker agreement, or email or fax it to 301-218-4337. Okay? All right. Thank you, guys. Appreciate you very, very much. And we'll see you tomorrow to listen to Mr. X. Bye.